Nej. Nej.
Sweden is on a fast track to disaster.
Nej.
Yes, it's a refugee overload. That's a good word. Sweden is traditionally known as the land of ice hockey, herring, meatballs, and Vikings. In modern times, Swedes pride themselves on their egalitarian humanism, welcome disaffected populations into their country, and provide generous social benefits to their citizens. But what really is the situation in Sweden? What happens when the world's largest welfare state meets a flood of migrants from a foreign culture? Is this an invasion? Why is Sweden today called the rape capital of the world? Sweden is one of the world's least populated countries. 3 decades ago, its birth rate began to fall. Less children means less workers supporting more and more retirees and non-workers living off the giant welfare state it created. What to do? Cash-strapped Sweden threw open its doors to the world. By 2013, 1 out of every 6 people living in Sweden had been born in a foreign country. In 2015, this number exploded as Swedes embraced the mass Middle Eastern migration efforts pushed by Angela Merkel and the EU. From 2015 to 2016, as many as 250,000 Middle Eastern migrants landed in Sweden, according to the Swedish government. Most arrived here in Malmö. At one point, Malmö was taking in more Middle Easterners daily than Ellis Island in its heyday. In all, Sweden took in more Middle Eastern migrants per capita than any other country in the world. In the 2015 migrant crisis, over 1 million migrants overburdened processing centers in border countries, and thousands were simply allowed into the EU without any real vetting whatsoever. 70% of migrants to Sweden were men. Cases of tuberculosis and antibiotic-resistant infection began being reported in record numbers for the first time in generations. Gang violence erupted as existing gangs of Somalis and Iraqis and others squared off against new arrivals, creating turf wars in what are now known as no-go zones, where even police dare not enter. There were over 70 car bombings in 2016, an endless string of shootings, even hand grenades attacks that left children dead. Incidences of rape and sexual assault skyrocketed in Sweden, the overwhelming number being migrant men attacking Swedish women and girls. As soon as we set foot in Sweden, we began asking questions.
Well, if I can ask, you said that most city is safe, but maybe what are some parts that maybe we should make sure we just don't go to? Do you know?
You don't go there. Krooksbeek, you don't go there. You don't nothing to go there. Rosengård, you don't need to go there.
Yeah.
The next day, we took our first steps deeper into Rosengård to see the no-go zone for ourselves. Just 1 day before we arrived in country, we learned that a 16-year-old boy was shot and killed at a bus stop in the Rosengård no-go zone.
Can you at least just tell me some information, like what happened?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened, but I think it's about between gangs and
What gangs?
The time when the migration crisis really hit Europe was around 2011-2013. As you can see on the chart on screen, in 2013 there were about 300 attacks in Sweden. In 2016 it was 35. Notable incidents, for example this summer when an 8-year-old child was killed when a hand grenade was thrown through the window in the room he was in. That seemed to have been because of a Somali gang fight. Just after New Year, there was a hand grenade attack at a police station. Cars have been blown up by hand grenades, and grenades have even been thrown into random people's gardens. How is this possible? hand grenades are military-grade weapons. I mean, this shouldn't be going on in a civilized first world country. This is the kind of thing that happens in Afghanistan or Iraq.
Swedish citizen journalist Josh D. actually stood in the square on New Year's Eve and filmed the attacks with his GoPro. We wanted to find out what drove him to travel there that night, camera in hand, and how the country and the media responded to his footage.
The New Year's Eve in Möllevången, where we are, tends to be chaotic, almost dangerous if you're in the wrong place. Some individuals seem to think it's fun to shoot horizontally instead of vertically.
So what was the police response?
I think mainly what they were aiming to do was to be present, making sure that people don't shoot horizontally. I mean,
But they did.
they did. The police, I would say, gave up. They came out in the newspapers and said that they felt targeted and they felt scared to get out of the cars.
So the police stayed in their cars.
Yeah.
So how did the media respond to the local media here in Sweden, respond to your video?
No, the local newspaper of Malmö, they were standing there from a safe distance, taping towards this direction and showing, therefore, a kind of beautiful, peaceful atmosphere. I have been called racist, anti-Semite. I mean, it's just crazy how prejudiced people have about my intentions and me.
Why would they attack you like that? Why would the local paper not show it? And why would they, in your opinion?
They wanted it to seem like the journalists, the press photographers should not expose themselves to danger. That this is the main reason why they were not standing there with me.
So they don't expose themselves to danger, but then they don't show the story either. They
not that part of the story.
Yeah, they cut out the main part almost.
Yeah, for all those people, that was the main part.
Yeah, I would imagine if someone's shooting fireworks at me, that's going to be an important part of the night.
And yeah, we have, I guess, just like you guys in the US, a pretty contrasted corridor of opinions.
And in society, also in politics, you have also a situation where there are a lot of things that you're not allowed to say. And you have, most of all, I would say, you have a situation where everything is being polarized. Where you have, if you would like to create a situation where you have right-wing fanatics who say all kinds of bizarre things, and then on the other hand you have the multiculturalists who say the opposite things, then you should have a look at the last few years in Sweden, because I think politicians, journalists, and the academia has, whether they know it or not, they have carefully created a situation which is, I would think, on the brink of explosion.
Vet du varför jag är arg? På den här jävla systemet. På det jävla papperssystemet varje gång när jag går till sjukhuset, man måste skriva massor med papper. Varför kom jag hit? Varför är det soldater i mitt land och dödar våra barn? Tand mot tand, öga mot öga. Fattar du inte det?
After hearing about the Swedish government's lack of will to enforce the law in these areas, and the way their state-connected media covered up facts about the cases, we heard about Roberta. Roberta is a Brazilian citizen who had a son with a Danish government official who lives in Sweden. After her divorce and attempt to return home to Brazil with her son, she was sentenced to 2 years in Swedish prison. This is her story.
So why can't you talk about the government here?
I don't feel that I can talk about the Swedish government or what they did to us.
Why?
Because the consequence, they don't take very well critics. they will be, I don't feel comfortable.
Do you feel that if you criticize them, that they'll come out against you?
Yes, like they did in the custody case. When I write a letter to the Brazilian president just describing what happened to us, they said that I was talking bad about Sweden, and so it was not good. And that's why it was one of the reasons that I could not have Lucas custody, because it was not the best for him that I talk bad about Sweden. They took my words as talking bad about Sweden, telling the truth. So I cannot tell the truth. I cannot say that they gave guarantees that I was not going to be arrested, and they arrested me, that they were not going to separate my son from me, and they did, and also that they put me in a cell, they interrogate me 3 in the morning. All this is wrong. For them it's wrong to tell the truth.
Is there freedom of speech in Sweden?
They say yes, but how do you call this? I don't call freedom.
Why would Sweden overlook violent crimes and assaults by migrants, but target young mothers like Roberta?
So there are certain things you can't say, even though they're true. And there are other things you're free to say, even though they are not true, you know. So what you say as a multiculturalist, you go on saying the right things, which are wrong, but you can say them, and you should say them, because it protects you and it gives you a lot of friends, and you can write a lot of articles, and everything you say is bogus, but it doesn't matter. So social reality no longer matters.
I was lecturing on John Stuart Mill, and then in the middle of the classroom was this Swedish Muslim convert, all dressed in black, with a white powdered face, and well, that was it. I didn't say anything out of the ordinary. In fact, I was citing John Stuart Mill a few times, and this was like a court proceeding, and I was accused, I felt, for having lectured on John Stuart Mill, and I also told them, why am I here? After 8 months, and I think I must have sent about 100 emails, maybe 150 emails, I don't know. I was acquitted. The case was closed, and I was deemed not guilty of defamation, not guilty of discrimination. I was let off the hook, so to speak. And I thought, you took 1,000 hours of my life.
Jag är så trött. Jag hjälper alltså invandrare och sådana som är barn till invandrare. Jag hjälper dem att få jobb i det här landet.
Jag är fortfarande inte invandrare.
De har jätteproblem på grund av att de tjafsar som du gör.
Jag är fortfarande inte invandrare.
Jag har inte sagt,
du sa det nyss.
Just days after we left Sweden, we received news of a horrific crime that took place in Uppsala, Sweden.
Nej. Nej. Nej.
Så du blev våldtagen?
Emil, du
där fick vi fram svaret.
Emil, du vet...
Nej, där fick vi fram svaret. Du har blivit våldtagen.
For 3 hours, a group of migrants live-streamed on Facebook the rape of a young Swedish girl. The attack only stopped when police entered, alerted by Facebook users who had been commenting on the video. The rapists were later identified as 2 men from Afghanistan, aged 20 and 18. In the footage, one can be seen holding a revolver handgun. Lawyers for the 2 Afghans say there is not enough strong evidence to make the case and are looking for charges to be dropped. This is a sad reminder of the situation Sweden faces as a country of 400 rape incidences in 1975 is now topping 6,500 yearly. Statistics show 77% of rapes committed in Sweden are committed by just 2% of the population, Middle Eastern males. Only time will tell if Sweden will be able to alter this fate, or if this once great country has been forever changed. Jack Posobiec, reporting for Cernovich Media.